G'day, listeners. Welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name is Jordan Spencer, and it's that time of the week where I get to hang out with some cool sailors and my two idiot mates. First up, joining me is my good buddy, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
Massive day.
Oh, no. Your little arms stretched again?
No, did nothing.
You were supposed to be sailing, I'm guessing?
No, did absolutely nothing. I woke up this morning and sort of looked out the window and went, nah. Cancel.
Yeah.
Cancelled the day.
Yeah, the dogs blew past the window and you just...
Sydney was just really turning it on today. No, but had a very relaxing day today, so it's the first one in a long time, so I'm really happy.
Good on you. You've been a busy man. Let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Boss.
Yeah, trick or treat, Halloween, whatever.
Oh, that's a
You little bastards. had a Halloween party last night. Isn't it funny? Like when I never remember doing that as a kid, and then now it's just full noise. Like kids are bloody everywhere.
What did you dress up as?
I dressed up as a tradie because I was cleaning my house yesterday, and by the time everyone turned up, I'm still in my bloody lawn mowing outfit.
Love it.
But one thing I did have, in preparation for the Variety Club Bash that I'm doing with Snowdy, Kalen and Middo, got these little keg backpacks that you fill up with the CO2.
I saw the video.
For gin and tonic. And so I gave that a little trial run last night, and I've got to tell you, bang on point.
Yeah, it should be every sailing regatta, that thing. I saw the video. I think that's a...
So I'll give more information after the bash, but we're essentially going, our theme is bash disease control.
Yeah.
Given the current world that we live in, and essentially the antidote or the vaccine is going to be gin and tonic care of Kangaroo Island spirits. So,
beautiful. For our international guests, the Variety Bash raises a lot of money for a lot of very needy causes. So
it's all for the children, mate.
It is, mate.
I must admit, when I saw that video, Boss, of you dispensing that stuff, I did think of sheep drenching. You ever done any sheep drenching?
Yeah. It's the same trigger almost.
I'm thinking he's just going to walk around, hold people's necks, stick it in.
Yep.
Away he
Quick
goes.
squirt. Yep. Off you go.
So you've lost me.
You never drenched sheep, BP?
No, I've never been near a sheep. I'm not a farm person.
Oh, okay. Well, the technique is they come down like a little thing where they get in single file. You reach down, get your hand under them and just hold the jaw open, and you stick like this trigger with a bit of fluid. It kills any parasites and stomach bugs and stuff. And so it's just like a little thing you stick in their mouth and squirt. Doesn't hurt them. It's to help them. So
yeah, good.
But little medicine. Bit like
gin and tonic.
Anyway, that's sheep drenching. So there you go.
Yeah. Thank you.
I thought every kid grew up doing that.
For our Kiwi listeners, so you get the down on the... Oh, no, we'll stop.
Oh, dear. The Kiwis do it similar, but they kiss them first.
You can't talk too loudly, mate. You can't talk after last night. You can't talk too loudly.
Don't mention the rugby.
Oh, I am. I'm mentioning it right now.
Mention the rugby. God, my father-in-law was just on the phone and I didn't take the call.
Hey, biggest ever loss? I mean, come on.
Oh, we ran with a young team and the Kiwis played brilliant.
Here we go.
Brilliant. The Kiwis
I'm on the show. Let's go.
Yeah, good on you.
All right. Hey, we're getting down and very close to the Vendee Globe, and we're very pumped about that. We sort of want to try and bring everyone up to speed, make sure everyone's in on it. And we're trying to rack our brains as to who could help us most with this. And then we thought of a bloke that's a multiple world champion. He's been involved in running 6 America's Cups. He's created sailing magazines. He's been part of the Figaro. He's been part of the Vendee, the IMOCA class, the Open 60s. Pretty much... Oh, and the Volvo as well.
Just to add it.
Yeah.
That on top.
And is a yacht designer, and I don't know. I think what else? I think he's got a cure for cancer coming.
I hear it's the vaccine.
The vaccine.
Yeah. Trump, he's got him in.
So
Man, that's a resume, right there.
yeah. So one of the big players.
Who is it?
Yeah, Marcus Hutchinson. Marcus Hutchinson, one of the big players in the world of sailing. Welcome to Barkarati, mate.
Hey guys, nice to be with you, and that's you need to divide all of that by 10, quite honestly. But thanks for the intro.
How was that intro? Did you like that?
Only 0.6 of the
I'm going to have to play it back and record it.
Yeah. So the 0.6 of the America's Cup was the one that we did with Team Origin.
No. I did. I was fortunate enough to be involved with the Cup, but on the organisation side from the early 90s until the end of the Valencia gig. So. Nearly 17 years in the Challenger movement, which was fantastic experience.
So just before we go into depth about you, we're going to come back in and tie back into the Vendee. You're the team manager of Thomas Ruyant's LinkedOut Advens team. So we'll just put that on the record so that's known, which is one of our favourite, probably in our top 2 or 3 favourite teams for us personally. So, how did you get into the sport, mate?
I grew up in Dublin in the 60s alongside we had a yacht club in the north of Dublin called Hoth Yacht Club, and I was a member there. I don't come from a sailing background, and one of my best mates there, who I grew up with, was a guy called Gordon Maguire, you may have heard of. And the two of us let rip for many years in Dublin, and very quickly outgrew the Irish yachting scene and moved away. And our paths crossed a few times on the way, and he and I did a few championships together, and then he went off to concentrate on the ocean race, or the Volvo, or the Whitbread as it was then. But I stuck around. Obviously back then, because we were really old, he and I, yacht racing was an amateur sport in those days. And so you had to have a profession to be able to make a living out of it. He was kind of on the cusp of that. I did yacht design, and then I wrote a lot as well, wrote in Seahorse, and then ultimately ended up as the editor of Seahorse in the late 80s. And then I went and worked on the America's Cup, but I did a lot of racing. I did a lot of Admiral's Cups, a lot of half-ton cups, one-ton cups, three-quarter-ton cups, quarter-ton cups, all of that stuff, which was the IOR scene back in the 80s. And it was a fantastic time. It was much more international than the racing we do now. And I kind of miss that international, really. We had 20 different countries competing in things. And you can't get that at the Olympics now. But I went to work for the America's Cup through Louis Vuitton. So I was based in France, but obviously went and lived in San Diego for a long time and Auckland for a long time and stuff like that. And when I was living in France, I was missing my sailing, and I got involved with some of the French offshore sailing guys, and was intrigued by the Figaro scene, which is the single-handed one design circuit here in France. And through great good fortune, was invited to do a two-handed event in that class with a certain Michel Desjoyaux back in the mid-90s. No one had ever heard of him then, of course. And we did this two-handed event, and we won it. And it was like, oh my God, that's a bit weird. Luckily, he did all the work. I just steered the boat. But it was a real eye-opener to me that there's a whole other sport out there, which is, we talk about the various disciplines of sailing, but for me, there are 3 disciplines of sailing: fully crewed, single-handed, and two-handed. And I think more and more as we go forwards, we're seeing that these 3 disciplines are, certainly for big boats, are more and more distinct and more easy to identify. Anyway, I got offered a Figaro to race in France. I did 4 seasons of Figaro sailing between going to America's Cups and stuff, but very much as an enlightened amateur. I wasn't there to try and save the world as the greatest solo sailor of all times, but it was more of an intellectual thing to see if I could do it. And then once I realized I could, and that it was actually the most rewarding sailing I've ever done in my life, that I wanted to do more. And it's very Moorish, incredible, but it's a hugely egotistical thing, and very, it's huge, requires huge commitment, because obviously you're pretty much alone. Well, certainly alone on the boat, but you're pretty much alone in organizing it and funding it. There's not a lot of people to share it with. And then the America's Cup in Auckland came through, and then the America's Cup Jubilee, which I was heavily involved with, and then the America's Cup in Valencia. So I kind of dropped away from it a bit. And then, as we all well know, the America's Cup kind of fell over. We don't need to go into the details of all of that, but I went off and did the Volvo Ocean Race with Knut. Knut joined in early 2008, and I joined him shortly afterwards after having done the Team Origin had collapsed at that stage. And after that, I started doing a bit more Figaro sailing and coaching. And then there was the Artemis Offshore Academy, which was a brilliant initiative set up by Mark Turner and his team in the UK. And I was invited to be their race manager in France. I'm bilingual. I've lived in France a long time, so it was very easy for them. And so I suddenly had under my care a bunch of young British sailors who were learning their way in the offshore sailing world and in the single-handed world and the French world. Some of them were very young, were literally out of school or whatever. So you were kind of a life coach as much as a sailing coach. But we did that for several years, and it was hugely successful. And it spawned the likes of your own brilliant talent, Jack Boutel, Sam Goodchild, Alan Roberts, and people like that. They all came from the Artemis Offshore Academy. Anyway, that ran for a while. Unfortunately, the funding ran out after 8 years of that. And but I'd found another calling. Obviously, I'm getting a bit older now, and I really enjoyed that whole sharing of experience and helping people get the best out of it, and understanding the complexities of how to work in a foreign country and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of that, Michel Desjoyaux invited me to, he just signed a new contract with SMA, which is an insurance company here in France, for a Vendee Globe program. And he was off to do the Volvo Ocean Race with Iker Martinez and those guys. And that was in 15, I think. And anyway, he said, look, I can't do both. Can you take on the IMOCA program? And of course, I leapt at it because that was kind of a big deal. And the boat we had was, we just bought Massif, which was a boat that had just won the previous Vendee Globe. So, we're suddenly, amongst the top teams, and it was a real eye-opener for me, and it was a fantastic team, and we had a great 3 years. Well, the team had a good 4 years. They ultimately won the route to Rum with that boat, but we had some horrific adventures on the way with... we almost lost the boat in the North Atlantic in 2015 in a single-handed race where Paul was injured and had to be airlifted off. And then in the Vendee Globe 4 years ago, unfortunately, in the mid-Pacific, he broke his keel ram and had to divert to Tahiti, which wasn't the most unpleasant place in the world to go and rescue a boat from. But
it's been done before.
Yeah, exactly. And then when that ended, I got a call from Thomas Ruyant, who I knew from the Figaro scene and obviously from the last Vendee Globe, to say, look, I'm starting a new program, and starting from zero. There's one other guy and me, and we need somebody to run the program for us. Would you be interested? And so timing was good, and I moved across. And then Nick Bice comes into the picture, of course, because he'd already half built a boat for us in Persico, and put my hand out and said, we'll have that, and the rest is history.
Well, we're just about done.
I was just going to say, just cross all your questions off, boys. We're good to go.
So, yeah, right. Where do we go for off the run sheet?
Was that a bit long on the answering? Should I keep it short?
No, just do whatever you do. That's all cool.
One thing, not episode 57, we actually had Gordon Maguire on because he actually makes up our logo. We have our original logo was the what was it called? In the Beck and the Cows photo, the Silk 2, when they full bow down and Gordon's hanging off the back.
Off the transom.
So whilst your answer was quite long there, when we asked Gordon to explain that particular situation, he used up 48 minutes of his 1 hour. So, some classic stories out of Gordon, and just to
I better go and look up that one.
Just to put in the back of your mind, I'm going to ask you toward the end of the show your best Gordon Maguire story, because he had some bloody crackers himself, and I reckon you've got some beauties as well.
Look, he's already thinking about it.
To work out whether they need to be censored or not.
Well, remember...
No censoring.
Remember, just say whatever you want, and if you're unhappy later on, remember, we can fix it up for you.
It can have anything to do with skateboarding or Sam Fox or anything like that.
We need a lot more than an hour to talk about Gordon Maguire.
Oh, dear. Cool.
Classic.
Well, obviously, there's a fair bit of passion for the sport from you, and your skill set shows that sort of it's about promoting the sport and actually driving people and creating those opportunities. And even to the latest example, we've given quite a bit of love to Pam Lee and Kat Hunt, who did the two lasses went around Ireland doing donuts around Ireland faster than any other women. And you were the guy that provided the Figaro for them so that they could do that. So, I mean, is there that sort of altruistic motivation between... And I must admit, I think your wife, Megan, as well, is kind of involved because your management company is VV Resources and you sponsor that trophy as part of the Figaro for the non-French sailors, I think. So is there that altruistic thing for you at all? Or
look, it kind of, as I said right at the beginning, the 1980s were an incredible time with the Ton Cups and the Admirals Cup. I remember one Admirals Cup, there were 19 foreign teams racing in offshore. Each team had 3 boats, and each boat had to have 100% nationals. And so can you imagine that? 19 foreign countries. You know, we had Australians and New Zealanders, but we had Argentinians and Brazilians and Canadians. I mean, it was unheard of. And even the Ton Cups were pretty good. But we've lost that. And but we have an amazing sport. And I you know, the little bits that we can do for sure, the Fastnet's quite interesting, but there's no sort of interaction of the teams before or after. It's a one-off race. And the Volvo is not a national event. There's very few really truly international. I'm not looking for team events and all of that kind of stuff, but just where there's a big mixing of multinationals. And so with offshore racing scene, I mean, I love the solo thing and I love the whole pragmatic approach of your you can fix anything, you can sort anything out. Personally, the most rewarding sailing I've done, as I said, is crossing the finish line of the last leg of the Figaro, Solitaire du Figaro or something, is one of the greatest buzzes of my life, just to think that you could achieve that. And these guys that do the Vendee-Globe, just to get to the start line's an effort. To get to the finish line is a massive achievement. The guy who knocks it off is just incredible. You know, it's... so to get back to your question, I guess it was with the Artemis Offshore Academy, I really understood and realized quite how much value I could give to young sailors in that they could rely on somebody to shortcut them into working out how things happen. And it's very complex even for young French sailors to get into this scene. Obviously, it's commercial and there's sport and there's logistics and personal management and all the rest of it. But for foreigners to get into it, it's even harder. And so I've been... over the last few years become more and more, almost by default, the phone number that you call if you're a foreigner and you want to get into this scene a little bit as an outsider, whether you're a rank amateur or as somebody who's got a bit of background in racing and wants to try a different discipline. 2 years ago, we changed the class for the Figaro to the Figaro 3. Figaro 2 lasted us 17 years. It was a fantastic boat, but we needed to modernize it. And I bought, with my company, we bought 2 Figaro 3s to use in much the same way as we had for the Artemis Offshore Academy. Regrettably, I haven't really found the funding to manage that on its own, but hopefully that will come. And so I charter these boats, but I generally charter them and encourage them or make them easy for foreigners to charter, to come in and do it. And so last year I had Joan Malloy chartered one boat, who you may know, Irish sailor. And then I also had Will Harris from the UK, who's now a replacement skipper for Boris Herrmann in the IMOCA. And this year I had an American team that chartered the boat for some training in the beginning of the season in France, whilst their own boat, which I managed the commissioning of, crowd from Newport, Jesse Fielding and his team. So I commissioned their boat for them and got them going. And whilst it was being commissioned, they used one of my boats. And then Joan took it over for a bit. But Joan has had great good fortune this year. She's become a mother. And so she passed her boat over to Kenny Rumble and Pamela Lee for the 2020 season, which, of course, turned to custard pretty quickly in the piece, as we all know. But the thing that motivates me the most is to see quite how enthusiastic they are. As soon as there's a little chance of something, the two of them were like, well, our thing is the two-handed offshore thing. We're interested in the Olympic Games. If that all goes ahead, of course, that's a whole other subject. we really want to do this. And from what we hear and from talking to you, Marcus, and to other people, there's no question that the highest level of offshore training or offshore competition is in the Figaro One Design class. If you've got any motivation at all to have a crack at the Olympics in 2024 and you're not training in this environment, you're kind of wasting your time in reality. So they came over and they did as much as they could, but there was obviously very little racing this year. So they did Kenny did a couple of solo events. They did all the two-handed events together that they could. And I didn't know them very well, obviously from Ireland, but they're from Dublin. I haven't really lived in Ireland for a while. I knew Kenny's dad and I are contemporaries. He's a friend of Gordon's as well. I said, look, guys, what's next? And Pamela, Pamela's done an awful lot of sailing at different levels and stuff, but just keen as mustard, just so motivated. And I said, right, well, what's the deal? What are we going to do next? Oh, I don't know. I haven't got this. I can't do that. And I said, well, it's all about getting more women out there. It's all about building teams to have competition for the mixed two-handed slot, whether you're from Ireland or England or France or America or Australia or wherever. We've got to get people out there racing. And I said, why don't you find another girl and do a crack at the Round Ireland record? The boat's finished, at the end of the season, it's available and all the rest of it. And she said, I can't, I haven't got the money to do it, or I can't this, or I can't that. And I said, look, forget this can't business. Let's remove excuses not to do things. There's a boat. That's one excuse out of the way. Now, bring me the next excuse that you can't do it. And we just kept going through all of these things, and well, they did it. So unfortunately, more and more in this world, we've got to. It's not that I've funded it. The boat they chartered for the summer, the charter season had ended. They still had the boat. I said, keep the boat, go and do what you need to do with it. And bring it back to me. By the way, they still haven't brought it back to me, and I'm kind of nervous because we're now in lockdown here in France, and they're in lockdown in Ireland, and it's now early November, and the weather's getting pretty bad. I don't want them to run out of luck with what they've done this year. So, but no, anyway, seriously, the point is, one of my raison d'etre, certainly with the Figaros, is to provide a turnkey solution. Obviously, commercially, I charter the boats, but the boats, when they take them, they've got everything on board. They've got a dreener, they've got the survival suits. It's fully kitted out. It's anything you want. You tell me what decoration you want on the hull. You show up. Don't waste your time working out who to hire to fix your boat for you, or where to get it painted or anything like that. Your job is to go racing. So we put you into this training situation or whatever it is, and you get on with the important part of it all. As we go towards the Olympics, I mean, it won't be the Figaro. I would be highly unlikely to be the Figaro class, but it's immaterial what class is used for the Olympic Games.
Correct.
It's about it's not about the platform. It's about the discipline, and the discipline of two-handed mixed offshore racing. There's just no point talking about anything else if you're serious about it. It happens here in France in the Figaro class, and without plugging myself, if you need any help, contact me. There's a fantastic two-handed season next year, by the way, if we're allowed outdoors, of course, but 4 big two-handed events.
What is the best way to contact you, Marcus, while we're on that? No, in all seriousness.
I've got a LinkedOut site, I've got a Facebook page, and I've got an email address, and I'm reasonably well known. If somebody can't contact me, it's because they're not trying hard enough, and I don't want to hear from them.
Yeah, copy. But just back to the girls who nailed it, because we interviewed them 3 weeks ago, just before when they were setting up for it, and then the weather window came, they did it, and now I sense you've probably got them on the morning show circuit within Ireland and the UK. With the comms skills, they would have nailed it. They were fantastic to have on for the show, and although we were a bit afraid on whether they'd get any sleep at all, because they could both talk quite a bit.
No, but that's the enthusiasm and the energy that we have to capture and bottle and spread around. It really is.
That's it.
No, it was the pathway and the enthusiasm was just bubbling. It was really good. So you can definitely tell why they were successful. As for getting your boat back, with the lockdown?
Yeah, we're both in lockdown. Yeah. Look, it's the world's on its head right now. We're in lockdown here. The race village in the Vendee Globe closed on Thursday night. We're all tested twice a week, blood tests, nose tests, the whole thing. I reckon the Vendee Globe village now, with just the teams, the shore teams, and the skippers obviously aren't there, is probably the safest place in the whole of Europe, quite honestly, from not getting COVID, because it's like armed guards around the outside of it, and and the only people inside are multiple tested every week. So it's I don't know where we're going to be in a month's time or 2 months' time, whether we're even going to be allowed to come to the finish line, or what kind of finish line, what kind of world the Vendee Globe skippers are going to come back to. It's all
crazy, isn't it?
Hopefully there'll be a different occupant of the White House. But other than that, who knows?
So just actually tell us about that a little bit, Marcus. Basically what I know, the IMOCA guys have been looking at this super hard for quite a long time, and there's all sorts of rumours going around. Then it's on. The race is on. 1 week out from the start, everything's shut down, race village. What was the turn of events, really?
Well, obviously, it all kind of started back in March and April when the first lockdown came, and we were all new to this concept, and nobody really ever heard of Zoom. And we thought we better check out this whole Zoom carry on. And so we had regular weekly meetings, all of the IMOCA teams and IMOCA management, to kind of work out what this actually meant in the big scheme of things, because no one had a clue back in March what was going to happen. But we saw all these events being cancelled left, right and centre, and then the Olympic Games and what have you. So, my God, this is a big deal. What's going to happen to us? And at the same time, the event organisers, and just to clear things up for your various audiences around the world, the Vendee Globe is an unusual event in that the event organizer, the owner of the event, is the local government here in the Vendee department, which is like a county, or I don't know what the equivalent would be in Australia. It's not the region. I mean, you've got territories and provinces and stuff. It's a smaller division, but
it's a council.
Council, yeah. So the French country is very decentralized from a government point of view, and so each county, or each department as it's called, there are 98 of them, I think, altogether in France. They're pretty autonomous with their budgets, and there's obviously a huge amount of political pride between them all and what have you. And the Vendee region, and they'd be the first to admit it, so I'm not criticizing them at all, but they are probably amongst the proudest of French people for various historical, political reasons, which we don't need to go into because I'm not an expert. Anyway, to cut a long story short, if anybody could make something happen against the grain, they could do it, and they'd find the exemptions and they'd pull the strings and what have you. There was a little wobble in late April when the president of the Vendee region said, "No, if there's no village, there's no race." And of course, we were all up in arms about that, saying you can't do that. And ultimately, this is a sporting competition. It's not about a village. The village is a 3-week village. It's quite a consequential thing. You've all seen the pictures of them in the past, and probably a third of the fleet sponsorships rely on the B2C environment of that race village to actually pay the bills and sell the T-shirts and this, that, and the other to sort of fund it all. So it's a pretty significant little economic project just for the event. Anyway, as I was saying before, the event management is the government, local government. It's not an event promoter. It's not owned by anybody other than the government. And so if it had been an event promoter, they would have pulled the pin, clearly. But these guys worked out that there was probably some political kudos in there. And I take my hats off to them now. At the time, I was very worried about it because they've effectively forced it through. And they forced this village to be built. They took a huge financial risk, and we've all had to kind of follow on the financial side to build lodges and stuff that we weren't sure were going to be exploitable. Anyway, we basically sold our souls to the devil back in April and said, whatever it takes to make the start happen on the 8th of November, we'll go along with it. And so whatever it took was that you spend money like water on paying for hospitality lodges and this and that and the other and everything, as if nothing was wrong with the world, as if there was no COVID, as if there was not this cloud hanging over us or sword hanging over us that the thing was going to be shut down at any moment. And the other thing that's interesting is that this time of year, all the big French races start at about this time of year because it coincides with French half-term school holidays and stuff. And so there's always the big crowds of the school kids during half-term are always panned off to the grandparents around the country. And so all the big events are at this time. And so the crowds, are usually pretty significant, very significant. But this year they shut it down to 5,000 people in the lodge in the village at any one time for 2 weeks, and with a very, very, very strict accreditation system and a tracking system, and the usual COVID carry on. So it turned a lot of people off. The country, and like the rest of Europe, is kind of running before this latest lockdown at, dare I say, 70-80% of motivation, transport, this, that, and the other. Everything's been a bit hard this year, obviously. And then, but they had 2 weeks of the village, and then on Thursday night, or Wednesday, the president addressed the nation and said, from tomorrow night, we're going back into nationwide lockdown. And so overnight, the village was closed. But the race start is maintained because it's like rugby or football or any other sport, professional sports, that can continue on. But our definition of an empty stadium is somewhat different to football or rugby. And so you have to define, obviously when the boats go down the channel, there's not just a skipper on board. There's leave the harbour of Les Sables d'Olonne to go out to the race start area. There's a few shore crew on board, and you can't just let him go on his own. So we had to have a whole protocol in place for the guys that go on the boat with him, and then the rib that collects them. And then obviously, as you may be aware with the rules of the Vendee Globe, you're not allowed to stop anywhere unless it's in Les Sables d'Olonne. So if you have a problem up to 10 days, you can come back to Les Sables d'Olonne. You can restart. But the skipper comes back on the first day or the second day, well, it has to be the whole
lockdown
protocol sanitaire. So that's all a bit complicated. But as I said, we're delighted to be here. This race is going to start. There's no question about it. So far, touch wood, I'm looking around for some good wood. There have been no cases in this amongst the skippers. I believe there have been a couple of cases with shore crew that have just obviously had to disappear. Now the village is empty except for the shore teams for another week. It's a bit surreal because all the beautiful boats are there with all their flags fluttering, and the fleet obviously is a week away from starting, so they're all 100% ready or 99% ready. It's a surreal sight. It really is. It's incredible.
I guess my question for you is, Marcus, is that obviously the bigger teams, they rely probably on different sources of income in terms of, getting through this situation, which is completely unique. But the smaller teams, we all must feel for them. You said earlier that they rely on T-shirt sales and various merchandise forms of income and things like that. The smaller guys must really be hurting. Is there any support for them that's sort of coming extraneously, or is it just all just deal with it?
You just have to deal with it. This is the point. It's a harsh world, and there's no harsher sailing world than the solo offshore sailing world.
Just adds to it, doesn't it?
It's just another level. And I think, even the big teams, because the big teams obviously have big responsibilities with, if you've got the target on your back because you're the favorite, well, you've got to perform, and if you're taking the king's shilling, you've got to be able to fulfill your activation stuff. And sponsors obviously get pissed off if they're throwing millions of euros at things and then they can't bring their guests down to see the start and talk about it. But interestingly, compared to many other sports, as we've said many times before, sailing is actually extremely well equipped to deal with covering the sports side, because we never have crowds in the stadium except at the start and the finish. And the reality is that all of us here will be just glued to our tracker for the next 2.5-3 months. And that's and watching every video that comes off the boat, and there'll be plenty of mileage for you guys over the next little while. It's just going to be incredible. So I'm not worried about this competition side of it. There'll be plenty, and because everyone's locked in at home, there'd be an awful lot more people dare I say it, with free time on their hands to follow this and that's for us to step up and fill the gap and make people dream a little bit, because there's no question that being escapist like that around the world is an interesting story for everyone.
I guess having spent a fair bit of time in the mini fleet, you do see a lot of the way they get through these, get to their goals, their achievements, their dreams, and the better half of that fleet it's a dream, it's a goal. Whereas the elite front part of the fleet, they're out there and they've got the ability. Obviously, there's still the sponsorship sort of responsibilities, but the guys down the back there, they're going to be struggling and battling away, but they seem to be still getting there.
They are, and I think as well. I say they depend on the T-shirt sales and all the rest of it. The team doesn't depend on the T-shirt sales. It's their sponsors who've already committed the money last year that depend on the activation fulfillment side. I mean, the T-shirt sales is probably a little bit crass. It's just that
it gets the point across.
Yeah. But so where we are, I mean, always a Vendee Globe year and a year before is the busy. We ramp up the peak period, and a post Vendee Globe year is always a quiet year because the skippers are exhausted, they've got no more motivation for this, the huge personal sacrifices, reconnect with family. If they've done well, they've got a lot of media and stuff like that, but they really have to chill back. But we're going to have the double whammy of a very uncertain economic situation for what comes next, and that's. That is a little bit worrying. I don't know. I'm no better placed than anyone else to really understand what's going to happen next.
Was it close to any of the teams pulling out, you think?
No, not at all. Well,
because the money's committed,
March,
right?
Well, originally there was a 30 boat limit for the Vendee Globe because the port is actually quite small. It wasn't because they were being clever or funny. There just isn't any room in the harbour for more boats. And so we set up IMOCA and the teams. We set up a qualification and selection process by basically you had to do all of the IMOCA races or as many of the IMOCA races as possible. And there was a ranking, and the top guys and girls would get the nod, other than those that were exempted because they'd built a new boat or they'd finished the last race. And as time went on, the ranking became established and stuff, but. And certainly in the spring, we had, COVID. The people who were going to drop out dropped out in the spring. Conrad Coleman, for example, Eric Nigon, they couldn't raise the money to go on, and so it's not now that they're pulling out. It was a little while ago.
Sure. Well, and while we're on the Vendee, then your team, Thomas, he's feeling confident, looking good. The boat looks great, performing well.
Yeah, no, we've got an amazing boat. There's no question about it. We're extremely happy with the boat. The team's done an awesome job. We've been very, very fortunate to have Antoine Koch as part of our performance team, who I don't know if many of your audience would know him, but he's probably one of the unsung heroes of offshore racing in the fact that he's a pretty talented designer. He's an awesomely talented sailor. He's got a huge amount of experience and has a very abrupt way of dealing with things, but has guided us and given us confidence in decisions. He worked a lot with Guillaume Verdier. They did the Gitana Trimaran program together. They did the previous IMOCA for Gitana together. Antoine's done an awful lot of Orma sailing. He was an Orma 60-foot Trimaran skipper back in the day, and I used to race against him in the Figaro when we were even more youthful, although he's still a lot younger than me. Our boat is a bit unusually. It's got some differences compared to other boats. Clearly, our foils setup is different. Our sail plan is quite different. We're very happy with the choices we've made. Obviously, we would all like to have sailed our boats an awful lot more than we have, but everyone's in the same situation there. Regrettably, we just haven't done enough miles in these boats. And so, it takes four things to win the Vendee Globe. It takes a really good boat, but it takes a reliable boat. And you guys know the other two things is a really good skipper, but a skipper who's confident. And confidence and reliability come from time on the water. There's no secret to it. And the more you sail, the more reliable your boat becomes, because your confidence as a skipper grows in your boat because you know where the limits are and you understand it more. La-di-da. I mean, I don't need to explain that. But we've got as much as we can of all of those components, but time ran out, like it often does with these programs. And clearly, we're only scratching the surface with these boats, which they're phenomenal machines, but they're definitely a young person's thing. You need to be supremely fit to last any time on board. And I think, we see you on the outside and you look at sail plans, you look at foil setups, you look at this, you look at that. But the reality is, I think a lot of you will be surprised to see quite how different they are set up on the inside, so that the skippers can try and relax and try and operate in some semblance of normality when they're hurtling along at 25, 30 knots in an extraordinarily violent environment. And just the ability to recover and to rest is really what's going to make the difference here. For sure, the performance of the boats is awesome, but single-handed sailing, the boats are rarely at full pace for very long, for obvious reasons. And the Vendee Globe's a special race in that it's so long, but the real race is the race down the Atlantic. And once the first guys hop into the first system of depressions in the south, well, it's then about managing yourself and your boat to bring it home. That's how it's been in the past, and we saw a fantastic example of that in the last Vendee Globe with the massive race between 4 or 5 boats, but which was dominated by Hugo Boss last time with Armand Leclerc nearby, and the pace and the force that they put it on it. Unfortunately, that's what caused. Well, one of the reasons we could argue that Alex broke his foil and was then handicapped, unfortunately, on port tack for the rest of the race. But look, it's the boat's ready. It's dry inside. We went for a last sail last Thursday in quite a lot of breeze and a huge swell. We pushed it around and gave it its last pull in every direction. Tomo wasn't on board. He's in lockdown, has been like all the skippers for a while. We've got a few other little interesting projects on the boat. We've set up 12 cinema-style cameras on the outriggers and the bow and inside and what have you. It's going to be an amazing film made at the end of this with sound as well. We've got 12 fantastic microphones scattered about inside and outside the boat to record these amazing beasts, the noises that they make. We never really tackle the sound.
There was a question that came up during the week. I think I was talking to you, Jay, about it. Is there, I guess, for the audience listening, is there any what is in place for us in terms of footage during the race? Is there much coming
sure,
back?
Yes, the footage. Well, all of the boats we have an obligation with financial penalties if we don't oblige to send back video footage regularly, and obviously there's video calls into the boats depending on where they are in the fleet and stuff during the week. And during the whole race, and that stuff's on the servers, Vendee Globe servers. If you guys go and register on the Vendee Globe website in the media section and get yourselves accredited, you'll get access to those videos and interviews and what have you. There is an English site as well.
Only for legitimate media outlets.
I'm just going to say, I reckon about 5 of our fans...
23% serious, 100% of the time.
I reckon a few of our fans are already on the website pretending to be Baccarati and registering.
No, but maybe. But all of the...
we'll get on there, we won't have a space.
They go on the website and there'll be plenty of coverage, guys. Anything that comes off the water will be there. But it's not Volvo Ocean Race where you've got an onboard media man firing this stuff off. You spare a thought for the guys and the girls sailing the boats who've got plenty on as it is. And obviously...
I guess one of the biggest things from our side down, especially down here in Australia, Marcus, is that the double-handed scene is really just launching here. The short-handed scene is just launching here, and there's really... there's a handful of people that have gone and spent time in the short-handed fleet in France or Europe, and the whole this whole Vendee thing is relatively new. The short-handed stuff is relatively new, and we would love to be able to promote that and really make sure we get as many Australians on this as possible. I think that's a good opportunity for this particular episode, is to try and give them an access to that. So
Sure. We aren't very good at the international promotion of this in France, and it's regrettable, and it's something I want to try and work harder on in the future to get. There's an amazing footage here, but problem we have in France really is that it all works so well here that they don't have any real motivation or need to promote it beyond the shores of France.
Well, this is totally known by by myself, who spent a lot of time in France. But Australia, you've got no idea how many Australians don't even know about the mini transit.
Yeah, for sure.
So my point is, it'd be really lovely to be able to sort of really push this hard and make sure we get people watching this race.
Yeah.
So there's probably three sort of major topics I think that we need to cover off in our remaining time. One is the major performance characteristics that are going to be, because you mentioned the foils, you mentioned the rig, you mentioned downstairs, mentioned one other thing which I've forgotten in the interim.
Reliability.
Then we probably need to make the listeners understand what life's like on board when they're sailing full speed, what these boats are like. And then I think we need to touch on some of the other favourites in the fleet. Did you have anything else, guys, that you want to add to that?
I certainly do. I've got my three.
Oh,
one is
never one to stand back and hold.
One is Gordon Maguire's favourite.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we got
best
that
story about Gordon.
Yeah.
And do you reckon if I do an express shipment of some Barcarati Sailors Lager up to you, Marcus, you could hand it out to some of the skippers? I know. Talking to Seb Joss back in the day when he did the Vendee, and he had a bottle of wine on board, and he was sailing along, and just the boat stopped dead.
Oh no!
In the water, straight into an iceberg. Bounced straight into it.
Yeah.
So he went downstairs, opened up a bottle of wine, had a bottle of wine, and then thought, I'll have another crack now.
The race starts again.
So maybe we could put a can on each boat, and if something
you better get a wriggle on, mate.
Or indifferent happens, we might have missed our chance.
Let me just say,
don't worry, there's another race.
Take care of it till they get
There's another race in 4 years.
It comes with a stubby cooler.
Send it up, and I'll take care of it in case you miss it.
There you go.
So which one first, Jordan? I want to hear your thoughts, actually, Marcus, on the fleet. Who's the favourites? Who's the dark horses? Who's someone that is going to blow everyone out of the water?
Sure. There's no question that Charal is the favourite. They're a year ahead of the rest of us. They're a big program. They've got a lot of really good people working on that thing. They've had more time in the water than anybody else. They're the guys with the target on their back. Of course, then there's Apivia, which is a close sister ship to our boat, which is part of the Massif stable with a massively competent skipper with a huge amount of Figaro experience, although a little bit less around the world experience. He hasn't been in the South before, or he's done a lot of IMOCA sailing in the Atlantic. So they're the two that are the big French teams, I would say. And then, of course, the Hugo Boss project program you can never not mention them as favourites. The truth is we know very little about Hugo Boss because other than the start of the Jacques Vabre last year, we haven't seen them. They haven't sailed against any of us all year. It's a fascinating looking boat. A lot of us are scratching our heads on how you're going to do it. But, that program is also got some amazing people in it, just the likes of Capey and Neil MacDonald, plus the myriad of experience of them. And it's beautifully built by Jason Carrington. And, they've wanted for nothing except time, regrettably, like all of us, but them perhaps more than most of us because of the accident they had last year in the Jacques Vabre. And that took a lot of time to get sorted. And, shout out to Alex and his team because they do it in the UK, which is not in the French environment, and it's a lot more complex for them. Probably a little bit more expensive as well. I don't know about that, but they've put together an amazing looking boat, and we know that they'll be bloody good. And we know that they have a lot of experience, but we also know that he's only got one objective, and that's to win it. So, it's going to be fascinating to see every boat. They're so different. We've got 4 different design groups this year, and even amongst the design groups, there's different variations on the theme. Charal and DMG Mori are out of the same mold. DMG Mori is the Japanese boat. I don't think they'll be particularly competitive. I mean, that wasn't really their goal. But when you look at the Hugo Boss, which is from the same design house, it's very different. The foil package is completely different. The hull shape's different. The whole inside-outside thing is different. And just the approach. So that's just one design group. Then we have the 1K boats, which there's 2 of them from the same hull mold, but the deck molds are completely different.
And the foils are different. Yeah.
And the foil packages are totally different. And, regrettably, RK, they've had quite a few technical issues with the boat, and so they're a bit late in their program in getting reliable and doing the miles. And then we have the Quorum boat, which is, technically looks really interesting. Nobody's ever lined up against that boat. They've never sailed against any other IMOCA, certainly not in a race or a training session. And they only launched in the spring. And of course, COVID hasn't helped things at all for them. They've had a few early, like all these boats, have had a few early niggling structural issues and stuff like that. But it's just incredible to see 2 boats from the same design house that are so radically different in the space of a short space of time. But that's the beauty of this scene. And then there's our boat, which is, was the original Super 60, Volvo Super 60, thanks to you, Bicey. I mean, you did all the engineering work, and we showed up into Persico, and there was just a block of foam there, and we which was the hull mold, hull plug, or the beginning of the hull plug, and took it from there. But the last and the most interesting boat is Occitan de Provence, the black boat with the golden sun on it, and that's Sam Manoir design. Fantastic. The first IMOCA design from Sam, who's done an awful lot in minis and class 40s and stuff like that. He's produced something that is very different again, and seems to be pretty competitive on the angles we've sailed against them. And really looking forward to that. I hope it's reliable. They've had a few structural issues with that boat as well. I hope it's reliable enough to stay in the match, so that we can really see, because coming at the end of this, when the Vendee Globe's finished, regrettably, we're going to have at least a 50% retirement rate, because statistically that's how it always is.
Which is a huge question, Marcus. Sorry to cut you off there, but the question that is on everyone's lips is, these boats, obviously the last Vendee, we had a couple of them down there in the Southern Ocean, but now we've got, all these boats going down there in this configuration. The Southern Ocean is, at the best of times, can be quite heavy. How are we feeling? Are they? Well, there's a big question on everyone's lips, surely.
Sure, but I'm not sure it's terribly different to previous events on that side. For sure, the boat, we didn't think the foilers could do it last time. We were all very nervous about that, and in fact, my own boat last time around SMA was in 3rd place when he broke his keel ram. Because again, it was about attrition, and it was about pacing yourself, and about that whole business of delivering the boat through the south and getting home. And that was more about the sailor than the boat, quite honestly. What's interesting with some of these foil packages is how you can retract them, or when you're going too fast, or it's too wild, or there's too big a seas, can you remove them from the scene? And different boats have different ways of doing that. Obviously, the Paprec and Hugo Boss, they can be completely retracted, such that there's almost nothing left in the water. And then you've got the other end of the extreme with Quorum, where when it's retracted, it's still fully down, fully in the water. And then the Verdier designs, where the foil cases are curved towards the inside, so when you retract them, you're lifting the tip out of the water as well as removing the shaft length. And that's, there's like always in all these things, there's endless solutions and lots of compromises. And time next year because it won't be when they're all finished that we'll know what the right answer is, and it's going to take some time before. But there will probably be some differences in opinion as to what's realistic.
I guess you could argue, apart from hitting something, the science is much stronger. Well, it's certainly a lot stronger than it ever used to be compared with these foils. like a bit of trickle down from Cup World.
Massive.
And to essentially the foils in normal sailing load will not break, whereas the last edition, it was still a bit of a guessing game.
Yeah.
And the build techniques and everything. So,
what about testing? I mean, has there been much testing in heavy air downwind, even though you're only up in the bay? But obviously you get big seas up there.
The bay.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
not. Yeah, I'm not saying it's. I've spent my time up there. I know exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm saying that there must have been time spent testing those situations. Surely.
We've obviously we're in the autumn here, so we've come off the back of summer, and summer you've got to go a long way to find any weather in the summer. The Vendee Arctic race, which we did in July, was pretty good. It was pretty tough for the first couple of days, and it was upwind, and there's no question that the upwind wave jumping around, these boats go really fast upwind now. These are doing 16, 17 knots upwind. It's quite phenomenal, and there's plus you have the whole wave jumping saga going on at the same time. So that's when you shake the things around a bit. Then the downwind side, well, it's more about getting a situation where you've got stable flying, so that you're happy with the boat not crashing the whole time, not stalling the foil the whole time. And that's where the work has been going on. In our own case, we've now got a set of foils that are operating further from the air-water interface, so we have a much more stable flight regime than we did before, which allows your average speeds to stay higher for longer, which is and makes it easier for the guy to sail the boat and leave it for a while.
Does it come down to how? I mean, we're talking about running these boats with autopilots, obviously, majority of the time, and you're driving down the face of these big waves.
99.9% of the time, did you say?
Yeah. But I'm just trying to work out, you're driving down the face of these waves, and obviously the autopilot has got to have some massive adjustments when it hits that face, and because there's going to be a time when the bow obviously hits just with the sheer face of the wave.
No, for sure. There are quite a lot of before the race starts over the season, we have to provide a lot of video footage of the boats in different sailing conditions, and we've done that. You wait for the cold front to go through so that there's a nice sun behind, but a big seaway and a lot of wind and puffy clouds and stuff. And you take a helicopter up and you go out there and you let rip and make sure there's no land in the background so that people think they're far away out to sea. But there's some pretty impressive photography and videography of these things. I'm happy to share a link with you guys to see that, where you see these boats plowing along in big seas and sure, they crash and waves go over the boat, becomes a submarine for a while and what have you. They are so much tougher than they were even 4 years ago. We just spend so much more time adding structure, but they are the hulls are pretty bulletproof now. Certainly are, but the foil, that is the thing, is what level, what pace are you going to be able to sail this at? Because you can always throttle back, but somebody else is going to be going faster. And how come he can go faster for longer? It's because he's physically able to do it as a human being. He is, because his setup inside is more ergonomically acceptable, or makes it easy to live.
The beanbag's got more beans in it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's we're way beyond that, my friend. We're more into space shuttle seat molded over the back of the skipper and
sitting in a dome that's set up with bungees everywhere, so you're just floating. So, but it basically is now the limitation is not the boat, the sails, the foils.
We know
the guy or the girl. Yeah, it's the human element.
Yeah.
I mean, the rig was the limit, because we were developing more righting moment than the mast could support. But right now we've overcome that with these things are instrumented up to the nth degree with optical fibers in the foils and load cells everywhere. So we know what's going on everywhere, and there's bells ring and lights flash and limits to make sure that the boat doesn't overload when the skipper's sailing. It's important to keep that under control.
I wonder if Alex has got that hooked up to his special watch to give him electric shock.
Yeah,
The one that, oh no, we won't go that.
Just before we sort of need to get on to some of Bicey's special questions here, but just one thing I want to quickly ask, because somebody will be thinking it, what about the previous generation boats? We have seen a couple of them have been able to stay with
Absolutely.
or
No,
done really
right to
well.
ask.
But in the Vendee, when you can just stay in front of the weather fronts and drive these things, the new boats super hard, are there any of the previous generation boats that can stay with them? Or
There are. There are.
Okay.
There are.
What's
Yes.
Who we got?
Number one for me would be Boris Herman with Militia, and the reason I say that is it's a bloody good boat. It was Seb Joss's boat from the last race, but he's the only one from the boats of the last generation foilers that modified their boat to take the new foils and the foil adjustment, the rake adjustment. They've done an awful lot of work on that boat, built up the structure, changed the bow. So that's one to watch. And
The other thing there is, of course, he's an ex-505 sailor, so he's probably,
What do you want me to say?
Oh, yeah, that's a good answer, Marcus. Great answer.
Keep going.
I have no comment. The ultimate dinghy.
There you go.
And then also Sam Davies has got a really nice boat with very similar to our V1 foils from Vendee with the whole rake adjustment and stuff. So, and she's done this before at least once, so she knows the deal. And then the third one is Isabel Joschka, who's sailing what was a Safran from a long time ago, but was kegging there in the last Vendee Globe. It just had dagger boards last time, but they have put modern foils, the same foils as Boris in. And she's a very plucky woman as well. And I don't underestimate any of those. Certainly if there's breakdowns, those are the kind of people that can really be in the top five, no question about it.
Yeah, that's I don't know how to pronounce. Is it Massif?
MACSF,
which is a VPLP Vendee from 2007, I think. So. Yep. Okay, that's cool. I wanted to bring that sort of in. Bicey, I might throw to you for the critical question before.
All right.
I think we've sort of.
Well, he's got the pencil in hand. It's serious now, Marcus. Hey?
The Maguire.
All right. Before we get on to Gordon Maguire, how about our good friend Brian Carlin? We know he's a big fan of the show, and he'll be listening in. So you've obviously had a lot to do with shaping and moulding Brian into a round ball and a few other things,
including his latest haircut on Facebook.
I haven't seen his haircut.
You got to have something on Brian. I didn't give you much of a heads up on it, but
guys, we don't have enough time to talk about all of these people. There's too much there. But Carlin, Carlin was I'm just going to say nice things about them, because Carlin was a guy I met in my yacht club in Kinsale. Oh God, I can't remember. It must have been in 2010 or 2011. He was an architecture technician, and he had a camera, and he was videoing a local match racing event. And I just happened to be back from I don't know where, and I was there having a look, and he came up to me, and somebody introduced us, and we started talking, and he said, I just want to get involved in yacht racing and all of this stuff. I think I'd just come back from being, I don't know, communications director of the Volvo Ocean Race or something like that. So I was kind of current on all of that stuff, and we just had the first cycle with the onboard media crew, and it's like Pammy and what have you. You come across people who just bursting with enthusiasm and motivation and desperate for advice or desperate for information or guidance and what have you. And he was one of those guys who lapped it up. And we had I gave him a few breaks with a couple of gigs. We did the America's Cup World Series event in Plymouth. And he came over. He didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I didn't really have a budget. I think I gave him €1,000 for all of his pictures for a whole week, all rights, all video, everything, and he took care of all of his costs and his getting there and what have you. And those photographs were used, and that was a big break for him. And then I took him on the road with the Artemis Offshore Academy, and he was a total pain in the arse on that. And he'll agree with me when I say that he didn't behave well. He didn't understand what hard work was. But I think if you ask him now, he'll definitely say that second event, the whole Figaro scene, really taught me that you just got to pick it up and go with it. The event business is tough, and anyway, Carlin's a great guy. A lot of time for him. We have a lot of laughs together. He's done a lot of stuff with me, and I'm delighted he's doing so well, because it's just proof again that people who are motivated and want to get on with it, they will make it. Just remove the excuses not to do things. You'll find a way.
God, we've given him enough publicity too. Carlin, he must be...
Love you, Alan.
Yeah, good on you, Al.
He must be...
So
good on you, Al.
pretty much anyone from the Volvo takes the piss out of him, especially Trey.
Well, that's what he is. It's his
Tony
character.
Ray just really sent it. Yeah, absolutely. And
he's a pain in the arse.
love
He's
you,
a total pain in the arse, Carlin.
now, all right. To the last one, Gordon Maguire.
Gordon Maguire. Best story. I can't think of a best story because there are too many. Gordon Maguire. Gordon, like all of us, we've had our ups and downs over the years. I can't think of the best. I can't think of the best. I can think of the worst. I can think of the terrible.
That'll do it.
The two of us we were on the last leg of the last race of the quarter-ton cup in Cork, and we were leading on points and racing against Paul Ricard Ho-Jensen, and we had a really nice boat called Quest, which is still sailing around in Dublin Bay, I think. And we screwed up tactically. We were young blades, and we made one little tactical error, and this guy sailed past us, and he looked at me and said, "What do I do? What do we do?" I said, I don't know. But anyway, it was that was pretty tough. But we went on and won the half-ton cup together a year and a half later, I think it was. God, Gordon, Jesus, I don't know where to start. We did so much together over the years.
It's all molded into one.
It is, yeah. I have to be honest. We were very, very close. He was a really great friend. We did a lot together. I have to shout out to Gordon's dad, Neville Maguire and Jean Maguire, who are pillars of the Irish or the North Dublin sailing scene. Neville's still with us. He's in his 90s now, but awesomely talented sailor. That's where Gordon got it from. But a hugely generous guy, and I must say, if I ever had one role model in sailing, it would be Neville Maguire, who taught me a lot about sharing, and I couldn't say more about that. But Gordon, I'd love to catch up with you again sometime soon. I haven't seen him for last time I saw him, I think, was in Hobart in 2003.
I've got a solution for you, Marcus. What we'll do down the track is we'll create an episode where you're both on, and we can have the banter episode.
That would be a cracker.
We'll have the banter episode.
Yeah.
And you can go as hard as you like at each other, and that'll be
plenty of crack.
Yeah,
we'll get
we'll create that one, and that'll be good fun.
Would that rise us up the charts in the Irish
Ireland
comedy show?
Oh, dear.
Hey, Marcus, and finally, last one. If you don't, we might try and tap into you like every couple of weeks throughout this holiday, just to get a bit of your insider information.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
Inside views, what's going on. That'd be great.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. No worries. It's always on a Sunday. You're around this time.
We can record whenever, mate. We publish on a Sunday. Yeah. We publish on a Sunday morning. So
just that you know that there's a live English version 20-minute show hosted by Andy Robertson every day of the Vendee Globe. It's in French an hour beforehand, but it's at 1:30 UK time. So that'll be GMT, I guess, for 20 minutes every day. And the information's on vendeeglobe.fr.
And just viewed online at vendeeglobe.org.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really want this part of the world to get into this race this time around. I think we've got a good opportunity to do that. So
cool.
Good.
So
be cool.
Put it this way, it's going to be one of the most exciting races that we've seen.
Absolutely.
Or that we're going to have the pleasure to watch with what's going on with these, let's face it, probably some of the most really cool and awesome boats that we'll ever see.
And with all the focus on shorthanded stuff now, as I said to you earlier, Marcus, in Australia, it's I think it's really cool. So let's push it.
Starts.
Let's do a promotion on, or let's get some two-handed mixed offshore stuff going. I'm more than happy to help push that. And
I'm starting to get excited about this one.
Yeah,
we've really got to do more. I don't know how it is in Australia, but
all right. So the Vendee starts next week. 8th of November, 12:02 Greenwich Mean Time, 24,000 nautical miles. There are 33 teams. Marcus said they tried to limit to 30. They've kept 33 out of the 73 teams that are ranked on the Globe Series. So we're going to build up. Next week we'll try and do a little bit of an update with some weather as well, is what our goal is. And Marcus will be touching back, getting some information, but we appreciate all the inside stuff you gave. That was awesome, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to the team here at Bar Karate. We know the Irish and the Aussies like chatting, so it's always a good thing.
Good fun. Great show, guys. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Good on you. Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus.
Cheers.
Good insight, lads. Good insight. 1 week away, and it's going to be a cracker. Imagine, Marcus was saying prior to the interview how windy it was there today in France, 40 knots. That's what we need next week. And actually, during the interview, and I thought, wouldn't it be great? We should actually record next week after we've watched the start of the Vendee.
Well,
but that's a negative. It's the first day of the Variety Club Bash.
Well, you won't be thinking anything about sailing, I can tell you that much.
Well, I probably will be, and I'll be talking about sailing, but probably won't be in the greatest state to be discussing it on the air.
Yeah,
I want to just touch.
We've made that mistake before.
Yeah, I just want to touch on my point earlier I made with Marcus that this part of the world needs to get on board with this race this year. I think that the opportunity, obviously, with the current status of the world and the world sailing and stuff, I think everyone should really give it a good hard crack and get involved and have a look at what's going on.
Yep.
Via the various media outlets, which we will hand down to you. I can't tell you off the top of my head what they are right now, but I'm sure we can.
Don't worry, Jordan will look after that.
Yeah, vendeeglobe.com.
Pretty much.
I probably guessed it right.
vendeeglobe.org.
Yeah,
vendeeglobe.org. But listen. Absolutely, this race is going to be spectacular. It's going to have some massive ups. It's going to have some massive downs, and it's going to have some massive surprises. And I think that's what this is all about this time.
Absolutely. And who you got your money on, boys? Do you reckon Sportsbet are bloody doing this? I'm going to have a look now while we're talking.
There we go.
It's a good question. I think Advens might be. I reckn Advens could be
dark horse.
I don't think they're a dark horse. I think they're right there on favouritism. There's, as I said,
saying Chiral, obviously because of their time on the water.
Yeah, but if you look back at some of the races that we've seen, the teams that have really been at the front, Advens. Apivia is what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, Apivia, Charlie, darling.
Yeah. Apivia, sorry. Apologies for that. So Apivia, Shirel, and LinkedOut have been Apivia Advent, LinkedOut Advent. I just
have
been the three.
I would love to see Sam Davies have a good crack at it.
Oh, she will. She'd be fantastic. Yeah. Hugo Boss will obviously.
Oh well, Alex, get him out there and
till he breaks something.
It's a bit different. It's a bit different to the last one where there was only a couple of them in it. But
I actually do think we need to call Alex is a potential sort of world-leading test rig.
Yes.
Yep. Definitely.
When you actually think about all his boats and
all the adversity that he's had, not only during given races, but in lead up to races as well.
Yeah,
and by the way, I can confirm Sportsbet does not
have any odds,
have anything on there for the Vendee. I can confirm I've put $50 on Trump to win the US election.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Have you?
Yeah.
Whether I believe it or not,
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah, you might as well.
What's his odds?
That's
What's
called
his odds
hedging.
at the moment?
Oh, mate, it was like $2.60 or something.
Oh, that's out. That's a good return. Yeah.
The other
Anyway,
team
don't want to talk about politics.
is Armel Tripon. I reckon Architon en Provence.
Oh yeah, Architon.
No, that's a cool looking boat.
Oui. Yes, the black one. Yes, I do love it.
It could be a super quick one. So yeah. Good.
Well, that Marcus said they were quick in the background as well. So yeah, that's exciting.
And soft spot for Boris. Go Boris. He listens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Do it, Boris.
Yep.
Send it.
Oh, look, I just want to say to all of them, even down to the 33rd entrant, good luck to you all and fair wins. And then obviously you can't say enjoy yourself, but see you at the end and hope to catch up with you and get
back. Whilst I'm doing my little summary, so this is the 9th edition of the event. Marcus mentioned Michel Destoujoyou, who has won the event twice. It's the only person to do that. Started in 1989. So she's grown
really
into
well
quite
with
your event.
you're really well with your names there.
Oh no, I'm not French at all, am I? I haven't spent any. I've only spent one or two a week or two in France.
But it's the effort that's.
It's always been freezing cold. Anyway, let's move on.
Sorry.
Let's get on to another major event that happened. World Match Racing Champs happened. Last year, prize money was $1 million. This year, it was 30,000 or something.
30 grand. Yeah.
Why bother?
Glamour.
poor the team that won. Are you going to talk about that, Bossy, or do you want me?
No, I'll take it over. But basically, Taylor Canfield, the team Stars and Stripes, they win what is the dual championship, being the Gold Cup and the World Championships. So congratulations to Taylor and his team, and maybe they should have pushed a bit harder and they would have got a boat in the Cup.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
They took out Ian Williams, who has been a long-time campaigner.
Took out being the word.
With our friend
Andrew Pinder.
Yes, that was exactly.
Did you say it, BP?
Sorry, I didn't
believe the crash.
Yeah.
Was there a crash, was there?
Oh, Campfield did not hold back, I tell you.
Okay. Listeners, get onto that.
He had a penalty on Williams. I think it was race 2. I'm not sure, boys. Penalty on Williams. Decided to go for a second. Williams was crossing him on port. Campfield's on starboard.
Just went for it.
Didn't try to avoid the collision. Just kept going. Made the collision. Took out his stern. Pushed his stern around. The bow of Williams' boat's gone into the media boat. Hard.
Into the media boat. Correct.
Yeah. Jeez, I hope that doesn't happen with the Maserati barge in New Zealand.
Beautiful. Oh, it won't matter, mate. Our barge is going to be still and fucking strong.
And what?
But those
that one out, please.
Beautiful boat. The boats that they sail the Gold Cup in, they just glamours.
Aren't they the 44? What were they this year?
Same as usual. Yeah.
No, the
RC44. No.
RC4.
No. They're like classics. Okay.
No.
They're
like a dragony type.
Yeah, like those little things. Yeah.
But the what did he win? 3 of the 4 races.
Yeah.
So quite convincing. In the end.
Yeah.
So well done, Taylor and his team.
Yeah, it's a shame they're not in the cup. To Ian. Yeah, shame they're not in the cup. It'd be interesting to see how they would have gone. I wish they got their money together. Vendee Race Village is closed. We've mentioned that's been mentioned many times. The offshore doubles. If you're even slightly interested, maybe you're really, really interested, like BP. There's basically Google offshore doubles and join up. You'll be able to find it. It's been BP. You probably know about it. Do you know?
So it's a world sailing thing, right?
Yeah, it's a world sailing thing. It's pushed pretty hard, actually. It's basically I guess, a database of people, everyone getting together and talking about events and talking about stuff. So it's will be interesting to see how it grows over the coming weeks. So yeah, offshore doubles. I don't even know what the dot is, so you have to just Google offshore doubles, and it's there, and it's got some good information there.
Cool.
Cool.
Australian Sailing Hall of Fame made some announcements, and one of our really close mates, Malcolm Page.
Well done, Jordan.
Yes, you're in.
Greatest coach.
Awesome.
Oh, no, I didn't make it.
Yeah, I did hear this.
I didn't make it.
You did.
Pagey made it. Congratulations to
Hall of Fame. Of course, Pagey.
Talk about Hall of Fame. Guess who I bumped into at Coles last night?
Well, it wasn't John Cuny.
One Adrian Cahalan.
Oh, yeah.
Hello to her. Yeah.
Who else? Frank Bethwaite got dropped in, and also congrats to Noel Robbins, Jamie Dunrose, and Graham Martin. They also got dropped in. So just thought I'd mention that because, and we'll have Pagey on in a few weeks after we've started the Vendee. He's a very good friend of ours, and he's worth a chat to, and very smart man, 2-time Olympic gold medalist.
Absolutely.
BP, you're going to be interviewed.
Yeah.
Yes. Harkin at the front this week. So talking about the offshore doubles, but talking about offshore short-handed sailing. So that'll be an interesting one with Harkin.
In the front or at the front?
Is this when are you going to announce your Olympic campaign with during this interview, or do you want to save it to announce it on Bar Karate?
Oh, I'll probably just save it till I announce it on Bar Karate.
All right.
Okay. Who's sailing?
If anyone listens, I mean, I don't know. Who am I sailing with? I don't know yet. I haven't sorted that out. No.
All right. Okay. All right. Moving on. Secret Pro News, gentlemen. Shall we talk about this the banter you two had before we recorded?
There's a bit of banter. Bicey, do you want to hit this one, or do you want me to do it? It starts with the word.
No. Well, we thought we'd have a bit of secret pro news. Secret pro news in the actual world. And I was just telling the boys, just for our listeners, when we were off air, how it was sailing the Etchell today with good mate Caelan Howard and Dunny, and I just said to them, how good would Etchells be in Port Lincoln? They would be absolute weapons there, like flat water, and good breeze, awesome.
And to build the situation up a little bit further, listeners, and to all of our Etchell fans out there, I was actually having a discussion yesterday after I come off the water, Etchell sailing, and they were talking about possibly sailing in Port Lincoln on the way home from Perth next year for the Australian titles. So maybe that could be a push. We could get behind that one.
You probably shouldn't get into it, Bryce. I wouldn't worry too much about between you and Caelan. Neither of you'd make it over to Port Lincoln from where you are in your little Land Rover Defenders. You'd drop litres of oil.
Mate, we're not going to make it past next week in the Variety Club Bash, so we're not going to have to worry about anything else.
Boys.
But the point is that Port Lincoln would be the greatest place to have an Etchell National Championships, and I really hope it goes.
No, I was just speaking to actually have an Etchell in Port Lincoln, just sailing on a normal weekend sailing.
Imagine if there was 40 of them.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Last week, boys, I dropped something on you where I pitched a coffee table book idea.
Oh, I was waiting for this.
Now, can I just give a little one on the coffee table book idea? Yeah. We've had some photos sent in.
Yes, we have.
Most prominently from Julie Newton thus far.
Who we expected straight away.
Yeah. I'm expecting Snowdy to send in next. Basically just the quiver of boats that both of them own. That's equal points for them both. They're now vying off who gets the more mentions on Bar Karate.
I don't think the world actually took it seriously. So for our world listeners, our global listeners, get onto it, please. Send your photos in.
No, we'll set it up properly. We'll go and do a proper setup.
What I have had is an offer for someone to do all the copywriting, printing, putting the book together for us.
There you go.
So if you want to be in this book, get onto it now.
The only thing to the side of doing that is the front cover is going to have a picture of Aiken. Caelan Howard's boat.
Well.
All right. All right, so we'll expand on that one. There's no rush on that one.
Photogenic boats.
No.
Basically, the gist. I'll just get the gist out. We'll come back to this one, but we had this idea. I had the idea that we do a coffee table book where you guys send in photos of your boats. We put it all together in a book, and we get a cool coffee table book where everyone.
It's basically a glamour photo.
Yeah.
It's like the hero shot of your boat.
Yeah.
With your own 100 words.
And you can all send them in, and we'll put it, and we'll do it pretty much at cost price. Like basically we'll try and get them out there around the world. So that's the plan. I've had 2 more ideas I want to drop on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll come back to the coffee table book. I'm trying to get more people involved, our listeners. I'd like to do a talkback show where people can come on and ask questions. Whether we have a special guest they ask a question on, so like Tony Mutter would be a good one, because we want to get Tony back. We said that he's in town in a few weeks, and we could actually have guests come on. And the way I was thinking do it is just first come, first serve. We publish the time, they come in on the Zoom link, and then we'll just say, okay, Bill, your question. Fred, your question. And they ask the question and just see how that goes. It's a show.
Bill and Fred.
Well, okay, Angelique or Yvonne, whoever it is, basically. It's just an idea. I'd like to see if we can make it work. It might be a complete disaster and we just don't publish it, but it's something I'd like to do to give the listeners a chance to ask some of the questions.
So we essentially announce who's coming on. They think up their question.
Yep.
Knowing who the guest is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they just get in.
We announce a time.
Yeah, and they join in the Zoom link.
I guess the biggest problem we're going to have is because of the amount of listeners we have controlling the calls. I mean, we're going to have a switchboard.
No, we can't do a switchboard. So because everyone comes in on the same line, and we can't mute people because they all come through one link. So we'll just have to, it'll be first in, first, and I'll just do a list and we'll just go through and we'll do 10 questions. So if you're in the first 10 or 15 or whatever, we'll just see if it can work it out.
Right, so that leaves 7. That leaves 7. I'm doing 3. Or wait.
Yeah.
So that leaves 7 for the guests.
We'll see. Anyway, it was just an idea. I haven't got it worked out.
The first 7 guests that come through have a question. They have to type the question up first, and then it's on. Then it's officially on.
Yeah, something like that.
I like it. I think it'll work. Yeah, I think it'll work.
Okay. So we could do something like that. So I'd like to do that. I've got another one. Mm-hmm. One of the things we say all the time is we're about promoting the sport, right?
I thought you were going to say you're idiots.
No, it's a good point. About promoting the sport. And so we get these guests on. The whole motivation around getting the guests on is to try and actually bring give aspirational ideas. So Marcus, from a team management perspective, there's all these different ideas. Why?
Communications, yeah.
Yep. So there's always a reason that we have a guest, is that it'll benefit a listener somehow. Why would we not, once a month or every second week or whenever, we should actually interview a representative from a class of boat. So we should actually talk about a class of boat. It would be a good episode, So if people are interested in their particular class of boat, so you could nominate, it could be the Flying 15, it could be...
The NS14.
It could be the NS14, it could be something from...
The rainbow.
It could be something from Ireland, it could be something from the US, it could be something from New Zealand.
What was that boat Tony sailed? The dad and son boat?
Oh, the father and son. The father and son. Yeah, the father
and son.
Yeah, something like that. So
Great. So that is a good. Now that is a good idea, and I'll tell you why that's a good idea is because there's going to be a lot of people out there who actually want to hear about a particular class.
Yes, that's it.
And if they've got an interest in I don't know, could be for the upper end, the TP52s, the MC38s,
exactly.
and then down to the optimists
or something like that. So you can talk about, who's coming out of the class, talk about its history, talk about how to sail the boat fast. It could be anything, but, we actually focus in a bit on a boat rather than a person or a class of boat.
Ooh,
and that might just incentivise people to go to your class. So that's my idea. That's my idea. What do you reckon?
I love it.
I like it, Jay. You're on fire, mate.
You are.
You are on fire. We've got the coffee table book,
Coffee table book,
the Talkback Show,
Talkback Show,
and
that class association representative discussions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So there you go.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. To close out the show, because we've run out of time, we've got a good long one here. To close out the show, Nick Bice, you're going to explain the actual mathematics behind 23% serious.
Yeah.
So picture it, 2001. We should get some little theme songs to go with this. You can probably start playing the music. So 2001 Volvo Ocean Race, myself and my good mate Scott Maley, another boat builder, we would always walk around with a steel roller because quite often you're a little bit dusty. And that's when there were long stopovers.
Because of the carbon and stuff.
6 weeks somewhere, right? So we'd often go down. I'd be on the port side bunk. He'd be on the starboard side bunk. But we always have a steel rule in our hand. And whenever someone would come down, how much you got over there, Scotty? Yep, 23. What do you got over? Yep, 23. So then it just became the rolling joke. We'd always have a steel ruler with us. And if we're just stuffing around, always the answer was 100% of the time, 23.
There you go.
So that's where the 23 came from.
The insight to the actual outcome.
Yeah.
Genius. Well, Jesus, look busy. Basically, pretend to look busy, keep your job is what you're saying. Create a good reputation. It's a smart plan. You've done well for yourself, boss. Dear. All right.
Good on you, man. Love you.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for everyone listening in. Thanks, Marcus.
Yep. Thank you, Marcus, for your insight. Looking forward to catching up on the goss.
All right. Speak next week.
Here.
My way.
Slide that guitar, BP. Slide that guitar.
Do you have one of those things on your finger?
Yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Multi-talented.